there are huge benefits to having neurodiversity in a lot of individuals because they have a unique perspective of the world. And a unique perspective is what has allowed our species to evolve throughout history. Throughout history, education was created actually to produce armies of people who would follow a regimented way of doing things and rules. That's not to say that it's not beneficial and that we should completely throw out that system, but that is why it was created and how it was created. We are finding today that the most important part of education is really creativity. This is what produces the most capable people for this era that we're approaching. And we really need creative individuals. With that, there is this connection to special education, to people with special needs. And when I began education, some 20 years ago, it was definitely, even in the United States, connected to a huge stigma. It was not seen as something positive. And it's very exciting that today we're starting to enter an era of education or of psychology that we understand that there are many benefits. People with neurodiversity have a lot of strengths, and we need to be focusing on those strengths, not on the disability as much. Yes, we have to look at the disability or the parts that are considered the disability to be able to help them to reach their potential as people. But the main point is that there are huge benefits to having neurodiversity in a lot of individuals because they have a unique perspective of the world. And a unique perspective is what has allowed our species to evolve throughout history. And we know this in every field. So what they're doing is looking back at history and looking back at all the different types of enterprises or innovations in the different fields. And they're realizing the people that really moved it forward were individuals with neurodiversity like ADHD, autism, and other things like this. So it's important to really think about that as a species and move away a little bit from this obsession, I would say, of being neurotypical. And so to bring it back to the educational piece, education, again, was formed with the idea of producing almost an army of people who should be neurotypical. And we really need to take another look at the way that we're running education and move it to a different pathway, because that's not really what the world needs anymore. We need to be looking at creating or nurturing creative individuals and nurturing children's creativity and nurturing those that have a unique perspective, because they're going to offer different solutions to problems, and that's what we need in the world right now. So I'm suggesting that it would be kind of controversial, but a lot of educational institutions are run by very neurotypical people who are extremely in a box, and their perspective is very rigid, and it's very like, this is the way education needs to be run, and this is the way that you need to be as an educator, and this is the way that you need to run a school. And I think that this type of individual is going to be extremely outdated very soon, because this is not going to allow for schools to really blossom and to really become basically the forerunners in education. So we need both. I'm not saying, like I said before, I'm not saying that we need to abolish the previous system of education, but it needs to merge with this creativity. And as I have worked around the world in now it's going to be 7 countries, I've noticed even at really good international schools with really promising curriculums like IB education, which allows for a lot more creativity, that this is something that is not really nurtured as much as it should be. It's kind of last on the list, let me say. We want children and people to be makers, okay, not just mass-producing, regurgitating. We want them to create something new. We want them to actually produce something, right? So allow them different ways of producing the knowledge and acting on the knowledge. So that takes some initiative. right? Teachers and administrators need to allow the time to be able to come up with different alternatives of assessments. But again, stop making it your work. Allow the kids, say, okay, here are some ideas, but you can come up with your own way of showing your knowledge and showing your skills and showing that you can produce something creative from this. That's what's going to allow all students to thrive in the classroom. These twice exceptional students, the gifted and talented students that are maybe not twice exceptional, the kids who have special needs with autism, with ADHD, whatever you may have in your classroom, children with Down syndrome. There's all different areas for them to thrive. But you have to let them have that opportunity. It can't be so rigid. It can't just be like there's one way to show your knowledge. One worksheet you fill out, one test you fill out. Again, we can't throw that that has to be there too, here and there, right? But you need to offer multiple opportunities for them to show that. I entered education as a special educator, starting with the youngest kids, 3, 4, 5, and 6 years old, with the whole gamut of a whole range of learning needs and also diagnoses. And so I started in that in public education in Texas, and then I moved into IB education at an international school. And I was just like teaching 3rd grade. And so I got that really nice generalist understanding of how that is done. And then I moved into gifted and talented education, which is another form of special education that people tend to forget about, which is what we really need to play off of to break down that stigma. Because most people who are gifted and talented are actually twice exceptional, which means it is a formal diagnosis, which means they have gifts and strengths in certain areas. And then they also probably have a learning difference, which can be seen as a disorder or dysfunction, okay? So they've got both things going on, but it only makes sense. That's how all of life is. We can't have these great strengths and not have great challenges. Nobody has it perfect. The grass is always greener, but everybody has their strengths and their challenges. Even the person who seems like they have it all, trust me, they have challenges in their life that you probably don't want to deal with. So we really want to understand that the gifted and talented individuals, which, even in the United States, every parent wants their kid to be gifted and talented. Not recognizing that with those gifts and talents, there's always great challenges. So I'm really trying to spread the message that twice exceptional people are the norm, really, there's a prevalence of these individuals in the gifted population. And if we are so excited to have our children, even our own children, be gifted and talented, we need to understand that they actually are part of the learning support community. They are part of the special needs community. They have specific needs for their education to, again, reach their full potential. So if they're a part of that community, then why are we frowning? Why are we putting a stigma on people with learning differences? We really need to be understanding that they too have something really important to offer us all, whether it be a unique perspective, to make our empathy and sympathies grow more, to understanding community better. Back in the times when humans really existed in legitimate communities where they supported each other every day, whether it be in their needs, with each other's children, it was seen as a community. We all took care of those individuals. We didn't hide them. We didn't, put them away, look at them with shame. They were a part of our community, and we understood that.